This is Governor Bobber. This is Governor Bobber. Like, good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Hey, welcome everyone. It is Friday, February 16th. We're halfway through February, and we've only had about 2 inches of snow in the DMV, I think, or 4 total maybe, but not more than 6 this winter. And it looks like tomorrow's going to be another 2-inch day of snow, 2 or maybe, I've heard 2 to 4, but I think it's only going to be 2.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to hit, but I'll be happy if it misses me.
Did you go get your milk and bread and toilet paper and all that you need to do, that everyone seems to do? You know, it's like...
Well, we did get milk and bread yesterday because we needed it, but that wasn't even a consideration. You know, we still have a pretty good paper, stock from the pandemic.
Yeah.
You remember how we used to stack that up? Young moved it around to the other side of the stairs, and so it's a visual reminder every day. It's like, okay, toilet paper check. Paper towel, check, we're still good. So,
and it's just crazy. I think the way people around here panic. You know, I remember Andy Parks used to always make fun of all the people. He goes, "What do you do? Sit around in the house, just drink milk and eat bread all day?" He goes, "I wouldn't be stocking up on bread and milk. I'd be getting steaks and stuff that tastes really good."
That does make me think though, because there's a bread that we've kind of fallen in love with that we were getting at Costco. Was a Sara Lee Artigiano bread 2-pack, and they haven't had it over there for weeks. And I noticed today you can get a loaf of that stuff for like $3 on sale at Giant, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, I wonder if people start going out and buying all this bread. If I go to Giant tomorrow, I won't be able to find the stinking bread.
Well, you know, I've noticed that Giant actually, of late, their prices have been better than Safeway recently. They're like $1 less on a lot of things, you know.
Well, you know, I wasn't even thinking about regular grocery stores because between Costco and then the Asian grocery stores, it's pretty much, you know, or a Lidl or something like that, pretty much is where all our grocery shopping goes. We don't really walk into a Safeway, a Giant, or anything like that at all. But you know, I happened to get an email from Harris Teeter, and I was looking at it, and one of the specials is this bread. It was like $3.47, and I'm like, oh, you know. So when I was sitting around, I'm like, let me just see if Giant has this bread. It's like, oh, it's even cheaper this week. It's like, you know, something. We like this bread a lot. We have some bread, but since we can't get it at Costco and we go through bread fairly fast, there's no harm in buying more bread.
Yeah, and bread freezes just fine.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I tell you, if you ever go to the Amazon Fresh store over in Chevy Chase, they've got baguettes that are really good too. And
I'm still a little bummed that we didn't get the store over in Shady Grove. You know, they built the whole
What
thing.
happened? Did they just pull the plug on that?
Yep, they did. They built the whole thing. You know, everything was, you know, the parking lot. They had slots for the EV chargers and all kinds of stuff. And then they just, you know, decided that they weren't going to open the store. So, wow.
So what came in there? Did anything come in as a result?
I haven't been over there for a little while, but, you know, few months ago, I mean, nothing as far as I could
Well,
tell.
here's the thing. Why is Amazon creating new stores called Amazon Fresh? Doesn't it make more sense just take the Whole Foods brand, call it Amazon Fresh, and call it a day? Because I've been to both, and the bread that you get at Whole Foods, you could also get that at Amazon Fresh. The pizza is the same at the two places. Why do it's kind of like, if you remember back in the day, Safeway used to have a warehouse store called Food Barn, which was their discount. You could buy stuff. I think their gimmick was they didn't give you bags, and you could buy things in bulk quantities there. That's kind of like it's like you're not even doing that. It's just a different experience, granted. But yeah, I mean, Amazon Fresh has good deals on breads. Actually, their vegetables are pretty good too.
Yeah, see, I mean, I would have, if it had been there, I would have gone over there and tested it out because
Mhm.
that whole concept too is that you're using your Amazon account and right. I mean, you just you walk in, put stuff in your cart, and it calculates everything, and then you walk out, right?
Yeah. I wonder if the Wegmans in Rockville is opened yet or not.
Oh no, no. I mean, actually, the update on that one is at sometime in 2025.
Oh, really? What's taking us so long? It's like, is it
Yeah,
more like a.
we knew going in that this was going to be a process, and I'm
Mhm.
sure that pandemic related supply chain issues didn't help them any.
Yes. And as you know, I think Joe Biden wants to blame the grocers and manufacturers for shrinkflation and all the price increases. Because inflation is not down, Joe. We just found out the other day, and my stocks took a hit for that. The Monday when the market went down 500 points. Inflation is just not as going as fast as it was a year ago. But it's still up. Things are still more expensive. It still
Yeah,
costs
I
more
mean,
for
that's
the gas tank.
the thing is that I mean, for Biden, they were going, these numbers were going in the right direction finally. So at least inflation's rate of acceleration had been declining. We were
Mhm.
still seeing inflation, just not like we were at the peak. So he could try to make some kind of argument about Bidenomics and all this kind of stuff. This occurs, and it kind of it just kind of changes the dynamic. That number, those numbers have got to reverse themselves
Mhm.
for Biden to be able to stake his claim to that. But I think we see that people don't believe what Biden says, what the administration says on
Yep.
how good things are, because once again, when you talk about the basics in your grocery cart, your milk, your egg, your
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, the bread, that happens. Oh, that's the thumbs up is back again.
Yeah. You know what I think is really funny though? What do you call the whole comment that Joe Biden made? He blamed everyone else. It's like this. It's kind of reminds me like when you're coding or building something, right? And somebody in the middle somewhere cuts the corners, or they cut the corner, they mess things up, and then they blame everybody else but themselves. And it's insane how they do that.
Well, I mean,
It's like
Biden decided, rather than doing was becoming a tradition to do a Super Bowl interview, he did a thing on shrinkflation, and went
on
after.
TikTok, let alone he did that on TikTok. I wonder if he used his government cell phone for it when he shot that video. That's a no-no, Joe. If you're using TikTok on your government machine.
Yeah, I don't know what it has to be carefully crafted to put something decent on TikTok that
Mhm.
people would actually like. I mean,
Yeah.
it, Biden is such a risk, doing anything these days at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, it's kind of like this, right? It's it's just fun. I can only laugh at how incompetent this guy is. I mean, his friends at CNN and MSNBC seem to be, they were like going, "Yeah, that's right. It's the manufacturers. They're putting fewer chips in there." And this is kind of, I don't know if you remember, Frito Lay's had a campaign during the Bush 43 administration. They're saying how they're putting a little bit more in all the bags because they understand people are going through hard times. And now it's like we're cutting back because we just can't afford to do it. I mean, there's restaurants that are going to be going out of business, like the small mom and pop places. I mean, remember McDonald's did a rebranding of their dollar menu to the value menu because it's not a dollar anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just talking about this the other day with just the McDonald's used to have, just as you said, they had the dollar menu, but the franchises pushed back, just like Subway's $5 foot long, because corporate said this is the promotion we want you to run, right? And so they were kind of forced to run that promo. Yep. But the problem is that even then the cost of the ingredients and stuff like that was making those a money loser. So now they have that value menu, which is really now it's like the $1, $2, $3 dollar menu. There's not much on that menu at all. If you've ever if you walked into McDonald's.
I believe the McFlurry used to be on the dollar menu.
Yeah, I think you could get a small one or something like that. So there were a lot of things there that doing that. So I mean, the $1 soft drinks, like McDonald's promotion McDonald's had for a long time.
Oh yeah, Bats love those. Bats
they took that out because the franchises. You and I both know the cost of everything has gone up for these companies, and when you have to pay $15 to $20 an hour to people who work at McDonald's, you're going to pay more for every single thing that you buy there. And look what's happened in California. I mean, they pushed the wages up even higher.
Well, you got a candidate that wants to do $50 minimum wage in California.
Why stop? I mean, why not? I mean, when they were doing that fight for 15, conservatives were saying, why not 50? Why not $100? You're just the people. The thing is that even the people who are getting those raises, right? So they go from $10 to $15 over the course of 2 years. They think okay, this is great, but if they wind up going to a Burger King for a meal or a Chick-fil-A or something down the line, but the law is basically saying everybody's got to be paid $15 an hour, that $4 is now
Biggie bag's going to be costing the Biggie bag's going to be costing a lot more, and the peppermint milkshake they do is going to be costing a lot more.
So this is the thing. Wendy's has got those little Frosties, right? Yeah. And then every year starting in December, they sell a keychain, a little key tag, right? It used to be $1 and now it's $2. And that the $2 goes to Dave Thomas's homeless house for women and whatever his charity thing, right? So I buy one every year, and then you can redeem the first one immediately when you buy the thing. So then you can use it as often as you want during the year every time you make a purchase there. If you want to buy, that thing, that Frosty is about that big, right? If you bought that Frosty, they charge you $3.19, and I'm like, what?
It's like a Dixie cup. It's like a Dixie cup, right?
Basically, it's a large Dixie cup. So I was like, I don't know what it was before. I didn't really pay attention, but it wasn't. I'm sure when they did the dollar thing was probably like 90 cents or $1. It was pretty equivalent value. At $2, you're still fine because you're basically getting a $3 little Frosty every time you go. So they lose money every time they do that, but they raise a lot of money for charity. So they're doing some good that way.
But our friend Chris, what do you call? Olive Garden's had a free pasta thing, like all you can eat pasta for, I don't know, whatever it was, for 3 months or whatever. He took advantage of that, and I also noticed that Olive Garden does not do that anymore. I wonder if it was Chris being able to.
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's. Every place you go, I mean, whether or not Golden Corral is one of the few buffets that survive.
Oh, I hate that place. Golden Corral. Remember we went there on the way back from North Carolina. The one
You
in Richmond
remember
or
that,
outside
huh?
Richmond. And that was a horrible. The food was horrid there, you know. And I thought Old Country Buffet was bad, and Old Country Buffet was like good eatings compared to Golden Corral. Golden Corral had the worst possible food.
There's a few items I will eat at Golden Corral, and we generally go there twice a year because they give you a free birthday meal if you buy one. So the two of us go. We'll go at lunchtime and do it. And young us. So their fried chicken actually is pretty good, and they have a couple other things that are actually pretty good too. But most of the things, it's just kind of like it's okay. But I'm like, a person like me can never eat enough. I don't think I eat $12 or $13 worth of food when I sit down there. But
yeah, it's like when you go to an Indian restaurant they always do the buffets, and the one Madras Palace has a really nice buffet. There's a place in Columbia called the Mango Grove that has like really big buffet, but you can never eat $30 worth of food.
Yeah, and I haven't been to I think there's the Chinese buffet that took over the Old Country Buffet in Gaithersburg, their spot. I think it's Lou's Buffet or Chinese Buffet, and I'm like, because I think with Young and I, we're like, we know what the quality is of most Chinese buffets, and they're not good.
There was a buffet over in Lay Hill that people raved about. It was next to the old.
Yeah. It was right at the end of the strip.
Was it Lucky
was
Seven
it
or
was
something
the
like
first
that?
one there, and then it was like next to the Staples and
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, we went there a few times.
People like that a lot. They've actually gotten really good reviews by people.
Yeah, there was another one over in Montgomery Village that a friend of ours liked that we weren't crazy about, but they went out of business. Yeah, Lou is right. But see, buffets are a tough business. I mean, it's you got to make your money somewhere, like on the soft drinks and other things.
I find it funny how the Indian restaurants have the racket on that. Like you order a soda, and most places bring you a soda in a glass. No, they bring you a glass in a can, so they can charge you for every can you drink.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, when they do the can thing, because when my brother-in-law was visiting like a couple of years ago or whatever it was, and he was staying over at the Marriott, the conference center, the one over in White Flint area, and he had found some Japanese place across the street. So I met him there, and there, if you wanted a soda, it was coming in a can, and you're like, well, that limits any refills.
Yeah. And
hey, I do have, since we're talking about food, I do have a question about Indian food, because if you go to so Young we'll go up to Lotte supermarket up in Gaithersburg, which is in the Muddy Branch shopping center, whatever. But they have a restaurant, and I don't know how long it's been there. Probably, I don't think it's been there very long, but it's like egg centric, but it's Indian food, but it's an egg based thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I thought it was just like this really unique one-off thing. And I had a friend of mine who's down in Annapolis, and then he posted pictures like a couple of weeks ago of a similar place that was all Indian, but it was all the food was egg based or something. And I'm like, this is all news to me. This is kind of interesting.
It's like cholesterol on a plate.
Right.
It's funny. You go to like in New York City and New Jersey, they have like Indo-Chinese fusion Indian food, like Chinese food that has a lot of spices and all that in there. It's basically noodles that are like spicier than normal, and I'm not a fan of it, frankly. Although we did have if you remember at Josephine's birthday party we were at, we had those cauliflower things that were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And our friend there, who will be nameless, I'll tell you offline who it was, but she thought she was eating chicken.
Hey, you could do a lot of things. How many years Young fooled Stephen when she was serving salmon, and she salmon teriyaki, and she told him for the longest time it was sea chicken. So he thought he was eating chicken until he realized he was eating fish. And I think he still resents his mother for that.
But does he like it now though? After he's eaten
Oh
it,
no,
he's
no,
like,
no! You can't get him to eat like fish. I guess he'll eat shrimp, but I don't think he'll eat fish. But
there was a episode of King of Queens where where his wife is trying to get him to eat healthy, and like she finally finds a fish that he likes, mahi mahi, a fish that tastes like steak, as he put it, you know. But
I do miss, one of the things about my father. One of the things that he loved when he went to certain Chinese restaurants is ordering this whole fish that had all this meat sauce and all this kind of stuff in there, and it was delicious, but it's expensive as heck. It's like something that since he passed away, I don't think I've had that in 20 years.
It's
treat myself to that.
what's funny is there is a Andy Parks again, from the late Andy Parks from WMAL. He used to talk about Bonefish Grill having really good. They had a really good fish thing that he liked. Maybe it was the mahi mahi is what he liked there a lot. But evidently, Bonefish is supposed to have some good seafood there, even though it's not really a seafood place. But But I think a lot of these places, a lot of these restaurants, I mean, this morning they put out that roughly an average family's grocery bill for a month is over $1,000. It's almost like I think it was like 11 something is what it was. They were saying this morning, and I'm thinking that is like a mortgage payment. That was a mortgage payment, $1,100, for a house, frankly. And I'm thinking, like, this is insanity, people saying that, there's no inflation. I mean, you tell that to a family that, I mean, here's the thing.
Now, let me say this. $1,100 would be a mortgage payment for a small house at maybe 3% interest.
Yes, but if we go back in time, all the way back to the year of 2020, $1,100 would be a mortgage payment for, I'm saying, like, okay, let's take Montgomery County out of it, but let's say Anne Arundel County, you can buy a decent house for $1,100 a month, you could buy, that's all, in the old days, that would even be a down payment for a car. But nowadays, cars are just so crazy expensive. I'm right now fighting the urge of buying a Cadillac Escalade. I found out, I was looking at go, hey, a base Cadillac is only $80,000. And I'm not really thinking, did I really just say that? Just the $80,000? And it's a Cadillac, so it's got all the trimming, it's got all the bells and whistles you'd want with it. It's got the navigation, it's a Cadillac, after all, When you go with the $100,000 Cadillac, that's when you get the cooler for your sodas and the glove box and stuff like that. But $80,000, it's you get pretty much a Denali for that much, And I'm fighting the temptation.
It's just skyrocketed.
And I think what really got me is I saw a used Cadillac Escalade. It's about 2 years old. It only has 30,000 miles on it. They want $69,900 for it. That's the one that I'm like, ooh. And I even like the color too. It's like a gunmetal gray. And I'm like, I'd love to. I think, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Yeah. It's just because I think I can still get about 50, 52 for mine. So it's like, yeah, I'll do that. I just not a bad deal. But yeah, I am, so I'm seriously weighing the options of getting an Escalade. But part of me says, isn't that insane? $80,000 for a car. That used to be a price of a house when I was growing up. $80,000. That was a nice house at $80,000 when I was growing up, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think in 1964, 65, whenever it was, my father bought the last house I lived in with them before I got married and everything that I spent most of my childhood in. probably, I think he paid what, $30,000 for that house.
Yeah,
You know,
that's pretty much it. That was a nice. That was that. You're getting a lot of house for 30 grand. And if you adjust it for inflation, you're not getting that quality of a house again for that same price, even adjusted for inflation. You're getting
yeah.
townhouses,
I mean, look,
condos.
even the house that I lived in, when I first got married and spent the
Mhm,
first 18, 19 years in.
mhm,
I mean, when that house was, I think that in 1985, that house new was like 135,000.
mhm.
Uh, and that was still a pretty decent value. I mean,
Yeah,
townhomes at the time were going for around 100 something
yeah,
anyway. So the differential between a townhouse and a single family home wasn't really all that great.
yeah.
And to think that 20 years later that house would be worth like 300,
Mhm.
$400,000 is just astonishing. My father would just, I think he would have been amazed to see how much appreciation had gone in during that time. We haven't
Oh,
seen as much appreciation in the last 20 years per se,
mhm.
in certain areas. Some places have done really well with that.
Florida
People,
things have really gone up, and that's the one thing about. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that was the average price, and that was yeah.
yeah, I mean that's not surprising. I'll have to look up my old house to see
Mhm.
exactly what the size of the house was, but in the
It
in the
was
last,
probably. I mean, if it was the house that I dropped your dad off once at over off of Inwood, I would
yep,
say it's probably about a 1,400 square feet house. About, that's probably about unless there was an addition put on, but
yeah.
I want
I
to say
mean,
about
yeah. I
1,400.
mean, the only thing that house had is that the previous owners had converted the carport into a little room, for
Hmm.
extra space. But that required its own heater, which was so you had to turn on this electric heater every time you walked in there.
Because they did that without permits and they didn't want to pay the tax man they just on the property taxes they would do for an addition.
Well, yeah. I mean, the addition we have on our house is it's heated and cooled. Well, it's cool, by a Mitsubishi unit
Hmm.
that's up on the ceiling and everything like that.
Hmm.
So, it's not hooked up to the central system at all.
Hmm. It's actually not a bad thing because, like my house in Florida, every room has its own thermostat. So you can, like the rooms that I'm not using, I can keep the temperature higher. The rooms I'm in, I keep it lower. It's actually a great thing,
Hmm.
where you can control when you have thermostats in every single room to do stuff like that. Um, but I mean, comes back to the basically how out of touch Joe Biden and the Democrats are. They don't think it's a problem. But he just ended up in Palestine. But do you think there's a chance he thought he was going to Palestine in the Middle East, and when he goes there, he goes, this doesn't look like the Middle East, Uh, it's like I said, it's one of those things. It's irritating. It's annoying, but people have to live. People are making the sacrifices to spend. As I was telling my brother, we don't, and I go, I think, Don, we're all in the same boat here. We're
Holy cow!
fortunate.
All right. So I decided to look up my old house, right?
Yeah.
So that house is
Are you looking at it
now
on
been
Zillow?
it's now been assessed at $897,000.
Yeah.
Man, they're wow. Ooh.
I,
Oh,
yeah. It's
actually, I'm scared about this because it's actually showing what the estimated taxes are, and I'm like, holy
twelve
crap!
thousand dollars. 12 grand.
$11,000 in property taxes and fees. Yeesh.
Is this your dad's house or your house?
This was my dad's house.
Yeah. That whole area is, people, you wouldn't think that area would be all that expensive down there, but it is because people like to be close to the metro. The schools are actually good for public school standards, I guess. Uh, and it's very convenient. You got the shop, you got the Somebody told me the Costco is bringing up the values over there because people want to be close to a Costco's. And, I don't think they're entirely wrong because in Florida, I do like the fact there's a Costco right by my house now. It is.
Yeah, I mean, I like where we live because it's like, it's 15 minutes. I can go to Costco, Sam's, a lot of different places.
Hey, is the Costco's by you is smaller than the Wheaton one, right? Size-wise? Or is it the same square? It just feels small.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Because it feels a little bit smaller there than the Wheaton one. And the Wheaton one actually feels smaller than the one in Beltsville, which is a nightmare, by the way. I don't know if you've ever been to that Costco's, the one in Beltsville. It's like a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. Well, the gas lines are insane.
Yeah. And Wawa's moved to the other side. They're next to the IKEA now. So it's always a pain getting in to get gas. Before, when they were going on Route 1 North, it was easy. Just hop off, go in, get gas, swing around, and get back on the Beltway and get over to Goddard. Now you got to go up, make the turn into the IKEA, then go around the circle, come around, get into the Wawa's, and then you got to go back in, and it's more of a chore now, it seems like, even though you're not going as far down as you used to. So has the Wawa's by you opened yet?
No, we're still waiting for that one. That's coming on. I think that'll happen maybe this summer. I mean, the Sheets is open and running fine, so.
Yeah, you can try the Wawa's pizza when it comes out, but I understand it is horrible. But we've got, as I was saying, like we're blessed, we don't like paying these higher prices for gas and all that, but we kind of deal with it, so to speak. We make adjustments and stuff like that. Unlike the average, there is not much wiggle room for the average family making, say, even $100,000 a year. It's not a lot of wiggle room there for them in their budgets, And I think the price of cars the price of cars, but price of homes is going to only go up because people are not selling their houses. Like people got basically, got the really low interest rates. They're not going to sell that to go in unless they're moving out of the area where they can roll that money into cash or buy another house for cash. That's the only reason I would see people. Because why would you want to get rid of a house where you're paying 3% and then you're going somewhere else and you end up paying 7%?
Well, that's the problem, actually. I mean, it's just that people have got low interest, rate mortgages, and they want to move, but the idea of paying 7% mortgage, it's becomes unaffordable for a lot of them, so they stay put because they've got an affordable home with a low interest rate.
Yeah,
and so as a result, people who older people who would normally move, empty nesters, to a smaller home, they're like, this makes no economic sense to me right now.
Yeah. I never understood why people would want to downsize. I personally would say, stay in the bigger house, frankly. My thoughts are,
I swear, I don't know how we would downsize, because every time I look around, it's like I feel like
you've got stuff.
Only more stuff has arrived in this house.
Yeah, and you don't want to sell that stuff, frankly. Or you don't want to give it away. It's like I have been having to do that going through my mom's house, like getting rid of stuff.
I feel sorry for my kids who will be stuck with trying to figure out what to do with most of the stuff, because I don't see Young getting rid of a lot of these things. And
do you still have your bumper sticker collection from AIM and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have,
and the pins and stuff. Yeah.
So I don't know, just lots of stuff here that we don't use anymore or never gets used.
Yeah, and shifting gears a little bit, you see Hamas wants a ceasefire, a one-way ceasefire from what I understand. And I really think it's about time. The IDF, Bibi's government should not base no capitulations, no more ceasefires. These guys are dead. Most of the hostages have already been killed by the terrorists. don't give them what they want. Just steamroll over them. And how dare Joe Biden basically threaten a sovereign nation, of Israel by threatening to cut off military aid to Israel if they did that. It's insane.
Well, that's all that's coming from the left,
Yeah.
who are all pro Hamas, types. So they want to do that, but because the left, for them it's like they need a two-state solution or something, and they just totally ignore that Hamas attacked Israel and was the aggressor. Yeah. So we have to look into this. There's apparently something
it's magically.
Yeah, there's something apparently with StreamYard and Max that is creating this, and it started. We saw on the pre-show that it didn't actually occur during the show last week, though, did it?
Yeah, it did not. Yeah.
Yeah, it happened beforehand. I think last week I left and then came back before we started, and then it worked out. But I had that same issue when I did my other thing that I do on Wednesday. Yeah, during the entire thing, the thumbs up just kept popping up. So
it's just people liking the video. That's all it is, Don.
No, they just love us. Whatever. Yeah, there's something that can somehow fix that, but it's like I don't even know why they threw that in there.
Yeah, I don't even know what benefits it is for it, frankly. But it's funny though. But I mean, going back to there is no reason why Israel needs to negotiate with terrorists. President Reagan says we don't negotiate with terrorists, frankly, and neither should Israel.
Well, look, I mean, they also discovered that all that whole intelligence center thing underneath the UN offices, the refugee agency that helps those that are in the Palestinian. This is crazy. It's like you cannot tell me that they had that operation underneath the UN office relief agency. That somebody in the UN that wasn't complicit in that. I mean, how do you run that thing without someone's cooperation?
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, yeah, and also, did you see Jeffrey Epstein and Vladimir Putin's rival have something in common? They were both very suicidal, evidently. Yeah, he died. That's right. And it's funny. I've noticed there hasn't been much coverage in the media today about it. You think it'd be like when a major opposition leader dies mysteriously in a Russian jail, you think there'd be a little bit of funny business going on.
I mean, I think there was coverage. I mean, I think Biden even came out and used that as a way to criticize Trump's relationship with Putin and all that stuff. But of course, he's also forgotten that Putin, when asked, who was the better president for the United States, recently said Joe Biden, right? So I'm not sure that Biden's in the clear on this. Yeah, he didn't just die. I mean, this is it's just like Prigozhin,
Jeffrey Epstein
from the Wagner group who was killed. When the plane went down. It's like, yeah, you're a foe, Putin. They'll find a way to kill you, and then not really have to answer the questions.
It's kind of the Clintons and Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe she was colluding with the Russians, Hillary. But in all seriousness, it's a tragedy. And two, the Russians, intel broke this week that the Russians are about to put nukes in space. And let me just tell all the liberals for a minute, when President Bush wanted to implement SDI, when President Reagan, you'd be in violation of that treaty we had with the Soviets, I'm sorry, the Soviet Union does not exist, you can't, it's kind of like if you had a contract with, say, a company that went into bankruptcy and is no longer there, you don't owe, you're not held to that debt. Well, this little debt is a little different, but it's like, it's the treaty, and this is why we need space defense. This is why we need a competent president who's willing to do what it takes to put the Russians, now that could the Russians be bluffing and saying we're going to do this? Just like they thought the might of the Russian army was going to crush the Ukrainians in a couple of days. They're still waiting for those days, and we're at what 730, 725, something like that, 720.
I mean, we're coming up. We're coming right up on the 2-year mark, which will be next week.
And it's funny, that invasion didn't go as well as planned, and I think the Chinese would have similar experience in Taiwan, I think. But it's just curious what's happening around the world, and it's all because of lack of leadership from Joey B. And it looks like our Lloyd Austin's back in the hospital again. But this time I heard he did tell people that he was going and did transfer power. So good on you, Secretary Austin. You did the right thing this time.
Yeah, I think it seems that there's some serious issues with him, unfortunately.
But Joe Biden this week, when DOJ had the report that he's just a funny-duddy old man who can't remember, that's why we can't prosecute him, right? Instead of just taking the win, he has to double back and come back and like attack. I think if he were smart, he would have said, "Yeah, that's just me. I'm just a dope," Opposed to trying to deny it, which now means, hey, is Garland covering up by saying that he's old and so on? But I must say, I think that what do you call? What am I trying to say? Is that Joe Biden, the Democrats? I didn't think at first they would replace him, but I think they may replace him before even the convention with Kamala as the new president.
Yeah, that's I don't see any of that happening.
I don't, but it could happen, I suppose.
I mean, I think the Democrats are definitely worried about Biden and his competence, but they're not really going to be able to do anything about it at this stage.
I mean, how old was Bob Dole in '96 when he ran for president? Because he told everyone he's not going to run for one term after that, not going to do 2 terms. He was, I think, about the same age as Joe is now. Or maybe older than Joe, because I remember they were saying if he got elected in '96, he would have been the same age as Reagan was when he left office.
Yeah. So Dole was born in 1923.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in his early 70s.
Yeah, and I would much rather have Senator Dole holding the nuclear football than Joe Biden, frankly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think without trying to be overly biased about anything, I think this is that anybody who looks at Joe Biden today and then goes back and looks at Joe Biden 3 years ago sees a tremendous difference in his ability, and so I think everybody needs to look at this and say, this is a problem. He has aged and declined a lot in 3 years, and that's a huge risk for us. I mean, that's just what a wide opening it leaves for our enemies.
And do you think they will have if you think he'll even agree to doing debates with President Trump?
Yeah, I mean, they ought to. I mean, they really need to have a debate, but it is questionable as to whether or not Biden would agree to one, because Biden is not the same guy. Biden's not the same guy he was in 2020. So this will not end well for him in all likelihood.
I can actually see Biden agreeing to the debate, and his handlers would back out.
Well, one of the things too is that if Biden bowed out before the convention, right? What happens here? I mean, what are all the deadlines to get on ballots
A lot of them are passed. A lot of them already
Right.
passed. We're
Right. So
Super Tuesday
that
is in spitting distance.
that would be problematic, right? Because then you wouldn't be able to stick a candidate on the ballot. You'd have to almost be basically a write-in in order to do it. So that's not a tenable situation. If he abdicates at the convention, then Harris or someone else, the delegates can choose someone else there. But the problem still is that you don't have the person's name on the ballot. So I think at this stage there's no turning back, but it wouldn't preclude if Biden somehow managed to win for then saying that he was going to leave office and then Harris takes over, which is scary.
Yes.
If there's anything in America that should scare people, is that Kamala Harris is as we say, a heartbeat away. Yeah, I wasn't as concerned 3 years ago. I'm really concerned now.
Yeah, and let me tell you this: all you Dan Quayle haters, and Dan Quayle is a hell of a lot more qualified than Kamala Harris is as vice president. Dan Quayle was ready to serve, unlike cackling Kamala. But
she's saying that she's ready to serve, and I'm kind of like, no.
dinner. What is she ready to serve dinner?
Look, if Harris had to go up against Trump wins. It's a cakewalk.
I think Trump beats Biden in the cakewalk too. Frankly,
it's gonna be interesting to see how this shakes out because
national polls say
I think Trump's in good shape, but you never know.
Yeah, national polls say Biden's up, but national polls is an aggregate of all the states. But if you look at state by state, delegate wise, that's how we elect presidents via the Electoral College, and that's not looking too good for Joe.
Well, he's not polling all that well in the battleground states, the ones that Trump won in 2016 but lost in 2020. Even if they split, if they split those states, and then Georgia basically returns back to the Republican fold, which it looks like it would, Biden can't win. So that this is a problem that Biden is facing. He's not popular. People are worried about their pocketbook because inflation is still there. They can, even though Biden says it's, they've got it under control, your bread basket of goods still costs a lot more than it did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and those prices aren't going to return to that level.
Oh yeah. And it's kind of like I remember I was talking to somebody after the .com crash, and a friend of mine goes, "Look, those jobs where you got all the perks and all the money, they're not coming back ever, and they really haven't come back, for the most part, and this is a big mess the Democrats have on their hands, frankly, because here's the thing, because if it was the old Democrat Party, they could replace Kamala with somebody else, like a Gavin Newsom or somebody like that, right? But this Democratic Party is not going to tolerate taking off Kamala, denying Kamala the seat at the head of the table if Joe can't do it, frankly. Really? Crazy? No, we did not. A crazy driver around Carrollton White Oak.
What? I don't even know what is all that about.
Yeah, let me Google that in the last, as we have 11 minutes left in the program. But, what do you call them? It's crazy, let's see. Oh, yeah, this is police investigating. It's basically around, let's see, yeah. Police presence could be seen at the Metro Station, Georgia Avenue, yeah. This is crazy.
I'm just glad I don't live in any of those areas.
Yeah. Okay, go away. I really hate these news sites that automatically just roll their stuff as soon as you get in there. But basically, it looks like there is a yeah, over in what the White Oak Carrollton area, and what's funny is it's sad, I should say, all the carjackings that are up, in DC. It's starting to look like the Marion Barry days of Washington. With all the carjackings going on. But also,
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs of a lot of these cities between all this crime, whether or not it be the carjackings, whether or not it be the smash and grabs all over the country in stores and stuff like that. California's taken the brunt of a lot of that because they changed their law that anything less than $950 was like a misdemeanor. So you can pretty much wantonly go in and steal a bunch of stuff and know that you're never going to get prosecuted.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you remember the old AIM building on Connecticut Avenue when we were back when I worked for you? There was a Gap next door. I remember Joe Golden told me they shut that store down because of all the shoplifting that was going on. That was in '96.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's like you kind of wonder, some of these areas, they had some issues, back when we knew it. You can only imagine if they had still had the same, some of the stories that are still around, what the problem would be. We were over at Lowe's over in Kentlands yesterday, and we were in the car, and she looked over, and she goes, "What is that thing over there?" And there was, you could see there was a pole, there was a blue light, there was a light at the top.
Oh, jeez.
And it's the police surveillance thing, right? That they plop those remote units down into troubled areas, and I thought,
they're all over Baltimore City, by the way.
Yeah, well, there's one in Montgomery Village, right at an apartment
Village
intersection of Mid County and Montgomery Village Avenue, and it's just that I go early in the morning to go to the gym that way, and one day I was sitting at the light, and I look over and I'm like, what is this blue flashing light thing? And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, and I saw next door a few weeks ago, I think somebody was asking about it in either another shopping center or some other place, and it's like, yeah, this is really too bad. This is a really sad state of affairs when you've got to put these little surveillance units in there to see if you can't deter crime. And I feel for the people, shopping. Kentland Shopping Center. I mean, I don't consider that a very bad area.
No.
But to have that plopped in right there, over there by Lowe's, I'm like, this is a little disconcerting to me. The one over Montgomery Village, not necessarily overly surprising, just based on kind of what happens in that area. But I'm like, this is not a good look.
Where they really need one is over where the Patel Brothers store is. I do feel I go there because they've got a deli in there and it's got such good stuff, right?
Does anybody with the name Patel get a discount?
No, they don't. I wish but they did put up my sign, which is good. But I feel unsafe going there.
Oh, so there's one near the transportation center up in Germantown then, where the Chick-fil-A and the Panera is, huh? Interesting.
They need to have one of those blue lights over by the Patel Brothers, frankly. I go there really early in the morning because the crowds are a lot less then, and you get all this stuff.
But what Susan just pointed out, and you're talking about too, I mean, that bus depot area right there,
I know where that is.
Forest, that's a problem. That's a huge problem over there. And it's like, if they don't have one over there, they need to put one over there because
they don't. I've never noticed one of.
There has been a lot of crime reported over there.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel safe driving there. It's like I actually lock my door. Basically lock my doors. Actually, sadly, now I lock my doors everywhere. There was a time when I would not lock my car doors because it was like, well, nothing's going to happen.
I mean, and there was a time when you really didn't think much about going shopping at night if you needed something.
Yeah.
now it's like a high risk thing, right? I mean,
I was at the Kensington Safeway one night, and I had somebody come over the parking lot asking for money. They actually just knocked on my window and asked for money. No, I don't carry cash. Well, go blame Joe Biden for me not carrying cash.
Yeah, well, I mean, how many grocery stores or other places you walk into, if you go there, when it's when it's not the peak hours of when they're open, like, I know I stopped by the Giant over there in Gaithersburg. That's right there by Madras, right?
Yeah, Madras.
I was over there one morning.
Oh, that's another shopping center I don't feel safe in, by the way. That's another one.
There's like an off-duty cop there or something that, I mean, you're just like, man, it's like, this is stuff that didn't have to happen before, but just, between, just general crime and people, being thieves and trying to leave. The Asian grocery store over there in Muddy Branch, the Lotte, I noticed when I left today with Young that when you walk out, they have pictures of a few people that apparently, I guess, have shoplifted, but they caught them on camera. It's like, but I think they got their faces covered, so you're not going to figure out who that is. But every business gets hit like this, and then everybody else pays for it.
It's the mask mandates, frankly. It's the whole, now people are wearing masks, and now you don't know if they're crooks or if they're just wearing because they want to do a virtue signal. But one of the nurses I was talking to said that she's not a mask person, but she said, she told me I could wear a mask if I was out with a large number of people just to protect myself. But I'm not convinced that that's really going to do a lot of good, anyway. I mean, it's. Didn't Fauci tell us that now that masks really didn't do anything? But we're at the last 3 minutes, Don. So let's do final thoughts. You first.
Okay. So Tom Suozzi won back his seat, the one that he gave up in New York when he ran for governor against Kathy Hochul. Not a big surprise. Mazi Pilip, I thought she did a decent job at, trying to run there, but I think you had a little bit of Santos effect with some people. The turnout was definitely affected by the snow that hit New York, so that did help the Republicans. She might have done a little bit better had
mail-in votes is what won it for him. He had 11,000. He won he was 11,000 votes ahead on election day. Yeah,
and he has better name recognition at this point in time, and he's not an AOC type of liberal left. So, but it does make the majority for the Republicans that much thinner. The Republicans it's going to be a dog.
We have 3 more special elections coming up this year.
Yeah, and Republicans have not done well overall on special elections lately, so that's not a good thing for them. Heritage Foundation, congratulations for hitting 51. So that's always good. They've had a lot of influence. When Republicans get elected to the White House, they send a lot of people that way. So that's great. That's great for them.
Our friend Becky Norton Dunlap and Elaine Chao, and to name a few, Ed Meese.
and then we have this whole, Fani Willis thing in Georgia, and I don't know. I mean, she's already had an outburst in court on her relationship with, one of her coworkers and everything like this. It does put a huge cloud over her efforts to go after Trump. And then there's Trump, being ordered to pay 355 million damages on top of the other 83 million. He's like, they claimed that he had $400 million in cash. Now, frankly, did Trump, did they mislead people about the net worth? I've always found that Donald Trump, when it comes to his net worth and all of what he does, I found him to be extremely opaque. So, and I really don't trust any figures that he comes out with. That the jury, those numbers are probably going to go down in terms of what he'll have to pay in the end. But I really don't know if he's really got anywhere close to the amount of cash. Say they bring it down to they have it. I don't even know if he's got that much cash to pay that off, because I really don't think that Donald Trump is worth as much as he claims to be.
He could
because
just sell one of his buildings and finance his.
he would have to probably reduce his empire even more so for that.
I mean,
So I have a lot of mixed emotions about
mhm.
Trump's truthfulness and honesty when it comes to business dealings. But when he was the president of the United States, policies are what worked for him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't keep his mouth shut for a lot of other things when he should have. But he's still as much of a bull in a china shop that he is, we would have still been far better off with Donald Trump in office than Joe Biden. So I'll still take him any day over Joe Biden.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Only thing with Donald Trump is he basically, first thing that pops in his head, he says it out loud. Like if he hates you, he says it out loud, right? He doesn't understand diplomacy and nuance and stuff like that. We paid a lot less for gas, and grocery bill was not over $1,000 a month for most people in America. Unless you were a Democrat eating that Kobe beef and so on, imported like the Obamas were from Japan.
Yeah, gas prices have been, at least in this area, been going up. And I can see it now that they go up a little bit more, and then they start to fall by November,
Mm-hmm.
and Biden can say, gas prices are cheaper today than they were 6 months ago. Yeah, okay, that makes that comfort, that you had a lot to do with that. That comforts me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
because it's still higher than it was when you came into office, right?
It was $1.99 or roughly right around that price when he came into office.
Yeah.
I remember when prices went up to like $1.50 when President Bush was president, and they were all blaming Dick Cheney and the Halliburton and the oil industry. Actually, I'm waiting for Joe Biden to do that, to blame Dick Cheney and Halliburton for the high price of oil.
Well, you were kind enough to send me a Big Mac meal basically for dinner with some Shamrock shakes.
Enjoy.
And
Yeah.
Young and I were talking about, when we were younger, how cheap those things used to be by comparison, right?
Yeah.
But McDonald's had their earnings report like a week or so ago, and they got hammered because high prices are customers are rebelling a little bit against it. But it's really not as much McDonald's fault as it is the liberals for pushing these wages. They force these higher wages. What are the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and all these restaurants of the world supposed to do? They have, besides the fact that the cost of their basic ingredients, which are a lot of things that you and I buy to put in our kitchens and our pantries, they have all those increases. They can't just sit there and absorb all those increases. They have got to raise their menu prices. So, the blame, just like we're talking about insurance rate, the blame is not really on the corporations. It's the people who put these policies that have been inflationary into effect that force restaurants and businesses to raise their prices.
Mm-hmm.
So, inflation in general, I mean, it's good. Businesses like a little bit of inflation because it gives them a little bit of an opportunity to expand their margins. But there is a limit, which is where we're kind of hitting. PepsiCo is having the same problem now, and Coca-Cola is that they've kind of gone to a point where, and I think General Mills, they've gotten to a point where they've raised their prices over the last couple of years, 2-3 years, but consumers are saying no more. We can't take this anymore. We can't afford this.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to you.
Yeah, I made a new discovery at Costco's on the design. I don't know if you've had these, the coconut bites. They're like a cookie that's got a lot of coconut in it. If you've had those, they're soft.
I've seen those. The thing is that I can only eat the coconut stuff that doesn't actually give me the little pieces of coconut floating around in my mouth.
Oh, it does. That you won't like these then, but they are good. I do like them. It's like and I mean I like almond joys also, frankly. Don't nearly get to eat those nearly as much as I used to eat those. I guess that's a good thing.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, and I am just so glad that I'm also so glad that Peter, Paul, and Mary, after their dead music career, they started a candy company.
Hey, did you ever watch? Have you ever watched the Amazon the series, The Reacher?
No.
Okay, so the main character, Jack Reacher, in this series, What does he like to eat? Clark bars.
Really?
It's hilarious. I'm like, this is so funny to me because I'm like, okay, it's 2024. How many people out there know what a Clark bar is?
You know, I'll tell you this. The last time I had a Clark bar was when Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, was in theaters. I got a Clark bar.
I think about the last time I had one of those is that I think I bought a box of like, nostalgic candy things that
Yeah.
and they included a Clark bar because I wanted to give one to my mom who was a Clark bar fan, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like,
So yeah, I guess if they're doing Clark bar, somebody still must be making Clark bars if they're putting it into into the Reacher show. But I thought Clark bars is like, if you're 30 years old, you're like, what's a Clark bar?
I was 10 years old the last time I had a Clark bar in 1982.
Yeah, see,
1980.
Susan's in our basic generation, right? It's like she
Yeah.
knows what the Clark bar is, and she likes the Clark bars.
Yeah. It's crazy. You know what else I also liked was the Fifth Avenue candy bar. I think you can still find them at some places. And yeah, it's today National Almond Day. Yeah. I do like almonds too. And Craig, almonds in Breyer's ice cream, that's the best way to eat almonds.
Yeah, I don't know. Those chocolate covered almonds at Costco are a killer.
Oh, have you had the mint ones? That are like what's the Girl Scout cookie?
The Thin Mint.
Thin mints, yeah. It's got the thin, but they've got almond covered orange creamsicle flavored almonds at Costco's, which are really good too. Although I've been M&M free for the entire year of 2024.
That's right. See, Craig, you're just saying just what I said, right? Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
That's true, yeah.
Right? Almond Joy has nuts, Mounds don't, I think was the slogan, right?
I do remember Chunky, and I did not like Chunky because they had raisins in them.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't like Cadbury either, because Cadbury had raisins and a bunch of other junk in there.
Maybe that was a British thing then.
I liked Hershey's. Hershey's has almonds. You got the Mr. Good bar. You got the crack bar. And those were good. I know a lot of people like mock American candy. Like I've got a friend of mine. She just got back from. She travels the world. She just got back from 4 weeks in Bombay and Delhi, and I take her out to Commonwealth, and she goes, "Oh, no Indian would be seen caught dead eating at this place. This is horrible. Nobody in Bombay would eat Bombay, as she puts it, would ever eat this stuff." And I'm like, I don't know. And it's Bombay, not Bombay,
Yeah.
Bombay, wasn't it the villain in the Return to Oz series? But last final thoughts. Abbott Elementary School is back. And I've been reading the synopsis. It's actually it seems pretty good. If you want to see how public schools are really run, watch Abbott Elementary School. It is phenomenal. It is so true to life how public schools work in America, But tomorrow, stay safe, everyone. If you're going out to actually, it's not going to be that bad. The sun's coming out around 9:00. It'll be fine. But yeah. Anyway, and that's pretty much all I've got. And coming up, save the date, April 4th. We're doing a book event for Governor Ehrlich. Come on out to that. It's details soon to be published on mdgop.org. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See everyone next week.